Fellas, it's been a while again, but this time around, after a rather long break, we are back at the motherland throwing bottled poison at our enemies. And because of that, today's topic is pretty much my League Starter's journey so far. Though forgive me for the lack of Scourge related gameplay, as I haven't really touched the mechanic that much. The whole concept of breaking items to see how funny you got screwed over is not that appealing to me, and I am more interested in messing around with 3.16's new toys than to throw my XP bar into oblivion with the mechanic. I'll get around to playing with the Scourge eventually, but for now I only care about throwing flasks at enemies. So let's actually begin the video with that topic, and with all honesty, it has been a rather smooth league start so far. For a new skill, it is performing quite nicely on a budget, and alongside the Occultist Ascendancy, this entire league start has been a really enjoyable experience. However, after mentioning my plan with this build, I can already tell somebody out there is already typing why not a Pathfinder, and the answer is quite simple actually. Yeah, I kinda live for those pops. I need the extra feedback in my characters, otherwise they feel boring. Which is why I went with the Occultist, alongside of course the extra curse, ignoring hexproof enemies and plenty of chaos damage goodies. While the Pathfinder certainly has the advantage on the flask, sustain and maybe some area of effect, I personally prefer the Occultist for this skill. I kinda like having fun after all. Now when it comes to gearing the character, I gotta be quite honest, this was really easy to gear. And it is due to not having to use a weapon. Without a poison enabling weapon, we save a chunk of currency that we can spend messing around with the rest of our gear. And we aren't using anything super fancy either way, so there's plenty of room for improvement, but we'll touch on that subject in a bit. However, not being satisfied with the hipster approach of playing an Occultist instead of a Pathfinder, I also decided to build and gear this character around block chance, but more specifically the new versatile combatant Keystone, and thanks to this approach I am capped for both spells and attacks with relative ease. This does cost a hefty amount of skill points, but to be quite honest it was either that or spending points on evasion stuff, so I'd rather have the block. And on that same vein, we also got plenty of masteries on this character, some related to poison, others related to quality of life stuff such as mana reservation, and a few involving defenses, but we'll talk about those alongside the gear in just a bit. So as you can probably tell, I'm actually really liking this skill and ascendancy combination, though with all honesty I haven't fought Sirius or any big name boss just yet. So while the ride has certainly been smooth so far, the biggest bump in the road is yet to be defeated. That will more than likely be for the next video. But with all of this in mind, let's talk about this League Starter's build. Okay, so let's discuss the gem setups first. In the body armor we want Poisonous Concoction linked to Void Manipulation, Vicious Projectiles, Unbound Ailments, Greater Volley and Greater Multiple Projectiles. The reason why we want so many projectiles is because the skill can overlap, and what I mean by this is that you can hit an enemy multiple times if projectiles overlap the impact area, which is why some area of effect is kind of important and I do intend to invest into it by the next video, but do keep this in mind when playing with the skill. For auras, we are using Malevolence, Precision and Purity of Elements. This last one is important as it allows us to avoid Ignite, Chill, Freeze and Shock, while also providing some resistances. And we also use Herald of Agony. Now don't worry about the reservation cost, as thanks to the tree, some masteries and gear, we are able to use all of these reservation skills without too much trouble. We also use Flame Dash, Wither Totem and Plague Bearer. And that is it for the gem setup, which is pretty simple, right? Though I am lacking some supports here and there, but nothing too important. And with all of that out of the way, let's discuss the actual gear. Remember that we are using Poisonous Concoction, which requires us not to use a weapon in our main hand to function, and as such we only need to worry about 9 gear slots. With that said, I am still making adjustments, but so far the gear is nothing too fancy. For example, the body armor is a 6 linked Assassin's Garb, which I quote-unquote crafted using Essences of Greed until I hit these rolls. Again, nothing too fancy, but we do require a chance to block attack damage craft on it as well. Since we want to cap both attack and spell block chance through Versatile Combatant, we want a shield with a hefty chunk of attack block. Mine isn't too fancy, and since it's a fractured item I was able to craft it spamming even more Essences of Greed. Since we are using a couple of reservation skills, we kinda want reservation efficiency on our gear. My helmet is a fractured helmet with life as the locked modifier, to which I spammed Essences of Loathing until I got accuracy and a resist. This is going to change by the next video more than likely, because it is lacking the area of effect enchantment for Poisonous Concoction. The amulet is Redeemer influenced with even more reservation efficiency alongside a crafted minimum frenzy. One ring has negative mana cost of skills, to which we need to craft another minimum frenzy charge. And the other ring has Despair on hit, alongside another minimum frenzy charge crafted on it. We want these many frenzies not only for the damage and attack speed, but also because we are using a Snakebite, which gives us poison damage alongside even more attack speed and accuracy per frenzy charge. However, we also want a corrupted implicit on these gloves, either Enfeeble or Temporal Chains as the implicit. I went with Enfeeble to reduce the damage enemies deal, but that choice is up to you. Finally, we also use a Darkness Enthroned and Bubonic Trail. So we require Abyss Jewels with life, damage over time while holding a shield, and resists. Also try to get at least 3 different types of Abyss Jewels to get some damage from the boots. For the flasks, we use 2 life flasks with as much life recovered as possible. This is because Poisonous Concoction takes some charges to deal additional chaos damage per life flask charges consumed. For this, Divine Life Flasks are the best kind of flask to use. We also use Rotgut, which gives us 9 seconds of Onslaught, 3 seconds per frenzy charge quote-unquote consumed, and a Sulfur Flask. And that is it so far for the gear of this character. Things will change more than likely by the next video, but so far this character looks like this gear-wise. Nothing too fancy and quite serviceable. So let's talk about the passives now. Alright, so this is a level 93 Occultist. We side with no bandits, and for Pantheons are Akali and Rislatha. Rislatha is the most important one because it helps us sustain those life flasks. Anyways, for the Ascendancy we follow this order: Void Beacon, Withering Presence, Malediction and Profane Bloom. We pretty much take all of the chaos and curse related stuff in the Ascendancy. Now for the tree itself, we are gonna be traveling quite a bit in this build. Our first goal is reaching the shadow area of the skill tree, to get some damage over time stuff, life and other goodies, but also the first poison wheel. And our first mastery, Poison you inflict on non-poisoned enemies, deals 300% increased damage. From there we are gonna rush towards the duelist area because there's plenty of stuff to grab around there. We take life, iron reflexes, dirty techniques, versatile combatant and shield stuff. We are also speccing into 2 masteries here, plus 1 chance to block attack damage per 5% chance to block on the shield, alongside increased skill effect duration / duration of ailments on enemies. Next we go back to the ranger area grabbing some more poison stuff, and we also spec into both masteries there. One is poisons you inflict deals damage 20% faster, and the other one is poison duration. We also take some life alongside a life mastery, which is 50 points of maximum life. And we also want some accuracy and attack speed, while also taking the precision mana reservation mastery. Finally we go back to the shadow area to grab leech, chaos damage over time stuff, life and reservation stuff. We also spec into the total recovery per second leech mastery, 15% increased mana reservation efficiency mastery, and the chaos damage over time multiplier per 4% chaos res mastery. And finally, to wrap up the tree portion, we take some jewel sockets. We want life alongside any poison enabling modifier and attack speed, though if you're lacking resistances or other stuff, feel free to get those in the jewels as well. But that should be it for the skill tree. It is a bit mangled and we do a bit of traveling, but everything seems to make enough sense, at least for me. So now let's wrap this video. So, as I said in the intro, this has been a very smooth experience. Gearing up was relatively easy and cheap, and the mapping is enjoyable enough that I can hardly believe this is a new skill that doesn't suck, unlike, you know, the vast majority of skills introduced in the past 6 months. And while you could argue that the playstyle is kinda whack, with the skill requiring overlaps, to be honest, it isn't that bad. Sure, it isn't super fast, but thanks to the Cultist Ascendancy and Plague Bearer, we can zoom around the maps and make up for lost time. Sometimes the single target leaves a lot to be desired, but I am guessing that's mostly on me, which should be fixable with a bit more currency invested, which I should totally do because I do plan to tackle some bosses with this. But yeah, so far this has been my league start. This character has been a lot of fun, even relaxing, as dumb as that may sound. The build should deliver some sense of pride and accomplishment pretty soon, once I iron out some of the quirks that are yet to be resolved. But with all of that said, that's gonna be it for me today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe, otherwise I'll catch you on the next one. Take care, have a nice weekend, and peace out.